Welcome to Deep Dive Film School. I'm Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And if you like what you see /hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us in all the spaces and places that people what?
Find good media. That's right. Our most popular platforms are TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So join us there. All right. We are going to kick off a new festival.
That's right.
I'm excited to talk about this guy. We are doing an Albert Brooks Festival. All movies he's directed and I think written most of them as well. I think he was an icon from our childhood, was definitely on the talk shows and all over the place.
Definitely.
I didn't realize how out there he was.
Totally. I don't think I did either.
Until I saw the documentary with him and Rob Reiner about Albert Brooks' career, and they said, let's make this while you're alive. And they basically, it's the two of them sitting almost at the diner that they sit at in that they break up in Modern Romance.
Okay.
And so it's just them talking about their career, but like looking at his career, it really made me fascinated to be like, why don't I know more about this American director? I know he's a comedian and actor, and I've seen a handful of things that he's done, and defending
your life,
my life or your life is one of the movies we'll be doing here, and I've seen that before, but like I really wanted to get into like his weird side, his Woody Allen side, if you will. I think there's a lot of Woody Allen here.
Definitely.
The self-deprecation.
There's self-deprecation, but there's also this like, well, let's just get into it because I think it's
real life is what we're doing. First, 1979.
A total send-up of the early sort of documentary, the verite documentary style, which, I mean, now is so prevalent
and overused,
to watch this and
this
be
was
like...
before Spinal Tap, right?
It's a mockumentary, but it also asks this really interesting, does a watched pot actually boil kind of question of like, if you document a thing, what happens to that thing? And I think that is something that like I kept thinking about weirdly. I don't know if you watched the A24 TV series, The Curse.
Oh yeah.
I kept thinking about The Curse. and I think Nathan Fielder is so much this generation's version of Albert Brooks.
I wouldn't have thought that, but yeah.
It's the same dry sense of humor that is so impenetrable that you don't even... He is unwilling to let you in on the joke, right? and so you just have to go along with it. And it makes you realize it's not for everybody, right? Because it's such an impenetrable style of comedy.
And like an Errol Morris movie or something like
totally.
that, where I'm thinking of Gates of Heaven or something where you're in this weird town. Here he's pitching Phoenix. After this intro scene, I'm like, I'm sold.
No, the musical number and just
not even that. I mean, that's definitely part of it, but like just the whole, we get the static shot, people filling a room. Mm-hmm. You get kind of some background of what's happening, saying, hey, we're trying to make this movie about this family. This 1973, it's a 12-hour PBS series. It's almost like, Was it the Up series? Like, you remember they did the Up series? They kept going back every 10 years or whatever. Something like that. A film crew basically sets out to make this documentary. So we get kind of behind the scenes. He plays himself in this movie, which I'm like, hell yes. In the very first shot, he looks like the most Hollywood dandy in his cowboy outfit with the sash around his neck. Yeah. He's like, we're making a movie about reality. And he's dressed like a cowboy. I don't know if it's just because he thought, I'm in Arizona. I should Phoenix,
I should be a cowboy or something.
Yeah, I don't.
His character is incredibly insufferable.
Well, and it's
absolutely
fantastic. Him, I'm sure like 90% of it is him.
Right. But it's also this, and I think that's something that's interesting that we'll find as we go through this festival is again that impenetrable. Another comedian that so much of his style reminded me of in a weird way was someone like Tim Heidecker, what Tim Heidecker's doing now. Not so much Tim and Eric, but where he's playing this heightened version of himself that never winks at the camera. He never lets you off the hook, so to speak, right?
There's parts where you're like, does he know the camera's still rolling?
Yeah, like he's being so awful, unforgivingly, and so gloriously unself-aware, right? And then of course we have Charles Grodin here as the patriarch of this family.
Warren, Jeanette, Lisa, and Eric are the family that gets by. It's funny, we go through test phases with other families, and like we get the whole like production of how they made this thing, and I always love movies about movies, and this was just like I was sold in the first 5 minutes.
And there's these things that Brooks does and I don't even really know how to describe it, but it's like one of the early moments, just the insufferable unearned ego. He's sitting on the steps outside of the research center and he says, if I had worked harder or been graded more fairly, maybe I would have been a doctor or a scientist. And you're like, you asshole, like, what does that even mean? And then he's like talking about the procedure to make the documentary. And he does this bit, and I didn't write it all down because it's too insane to even repeat. But he starts off with, if this test was turned into eggs, those eggs could feed 300 families for 2 years on a 2-egg-a-day diet. Sounds complicated? That's because it was. And you're like, what are you talking about? If people were eggs, it would feed 300 people? Like, am I supposed to be impressed with this insane made-up scenario you just created?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's so good, but it's so bizarre.
We've seen versions of this before, right? Truman Show. We've seen EdTV.
Totally, yeah.
We've seen, like, versions of, like, the reality TV gone wrong or whatever. And, he calls it such an unusual movie, and he wants everyone to be yourselves.
Yeah.
The greatest show of all is life. And he's just continuing to sell this. But the family testing, the walking and talking, all the white room.
The role-playing each other. So dad is his son and son is dad. The driving test is a phenomenal joke. You're supposed to park in the virtual garage. The virtual what?
And then we have these amazing cameras. They're called the Edinailers.
The Ettenauer. Yeah.
And it's just like this big helmet that they want people to walk around. And these are the camera guys, but you can't see their face.
This is David Cronenberg, Videodrome, bizarre. And that is a visual joke that pays off the entire movie.
It's perfectly ridiculous. You don't have to say anything out. Even the name Ettenauer is stupid.
And every time that there's like a sensitive, like, an important moment happening, one of these space guys just like into the shot, and you're just like constantly
I wondered in 1989 or 1979 when this was made if that was like a cutting edge, like they're on the cutting edge of documentary
because he's like it's then we take the chip out and we mail, so it's like it's all space age, and then you have to physically mail the chip into the studio for them to turn it into film.
For the time though, I thought it's pretty original and out there,
totally
and
original.
like just fascinating movie.
Well, don't you? I feel
and funny as hell.
And I've seen some interviews, and I'm sure he talks about it a lot more in the documentary. But like I've seen some interviews with him talking about where his ideas sort of come from for certain things, and he's never talked about this directly. But I get this feeling from both this movie and then what we'll be doing in 2 weeks with Modern Romance. His send up of not just the entertainment business, but people's perception of what Hollywood is like. Like, again, the insufferable asshole who thinks that if he had if he had been judged more fairly, he could have been a scientist, right? Yeah. That it's just like, to be able to say those kinds of things means that you're aware of what the average person's perception of what you're like is like. Like, I don't know if you saw, I tried to watch the trailer for this movie.
Oh, okay.
Did you watch the trailer?
I don't remember.
It's amazing. It's kind of like when we talked about when we did Strange Days, where you're like, it's not really a part of the movie.
Okay.
It's so him sitting at a desk talking to you, and he's like, I'm Albert Brooks. I want to tell you about my new movie, Real Life. And he's like, but we decided to use some cutting edge technology for this. So I want you to reach underneath your seat and pull out your 3D glasses. And then at the bottom of the screen, it says not available in your area. And the rest of the trailer is in 3D. And he's like throwing cups of water at the camera and going, woo, and poking you. And it's like all an in-joke. There's not a single scene from the movie.
They don't even tell you what it's about.
He has a guy come on and do ping pong or paddle ball at the camera for like the last 40 seconds, and he watches them like, this is amazing.
Wow.
It's just such a kind of
inside joke kind of thing.
Well, and such like a punk conceptual send up of the entire idea of making a movie, the entire idea of having a narrative to a movie.
Well, the entire idea of reality, right?
Yeah.
So this is before MTV's Real World or anything like that,
any kind of reality television.
And we get these like forced interactions. You can see it, right? You can see these forced interactions, and even reality isn't real.
And his laziness as a producer is what makes him love this as a concept, because he keeps going, it's all the movie. It doesn't matter. It's all the movie. That's what makes it so great. And he has these professionals, these psychiatrists of, behavioral health researchers who are like, yeah, but you're messing with this.
Dr.
Like
Ted Cleary.
Yes, Dr. Ted Cleary, a very serious man who, in our very first scene with Ted, he insults him by saying he's currently standing up. He doesn't eat a lot. So he's sitting at the table and he basically says like he's a little person or something.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, like Ted does not like him, and they kind of comes to a head later.
Yeah, it definitely does.
But I think it's really again that sort of, if we observe it, does that change it kind of a concept? These guys are trying to write like a white paper, a research paper about this, and meanwhile this lazy Hollywood guy is just like, no man, the movie will make itself,
Just let it be,
and it's going to be earth shattering.
Yeah,
the final movie.
You spend winter in Wisconsin, right?
Exactly. That's why they choose Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Anyways, this first dinner, another forced interaction, right? This first dinner with all the cameras on them. It gets so awkward. They talk about IUD and safe sex and all of the more mouths to feed.
Yeah, he's like, why'd you have our son go eat his pizza in the bedroom? He's like, I wanted to have fun. He's like, it's not gonna have fun with his family. He's like, it's not gonna have fun with your mom complaining all the time about her menstrual cramps. You're like, oh my god, they've been filming for like 9 minutes and like it's already melted down.
Oh, it's melted. It melts down so quickly, and it's so funny because like after that dinner, the mom's just like, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can't
leaving.
do this. She's like, I want to be alone. He's like, well, can we come with you?
Yeah.
And like,
then they make her take the different car because
Yeah.
they need to have all the camera people in the car. It's just, and that's the kind of thing where it's like,
I love that they stay on those moments though, because that's kind of the funny, weird stuff throughout this. 'Cause
Totally.
he obviously loves movies and he loves film and he loves telling stories and he loves being funny and he's good at all of those things. But like, knowing the parts to show behind the scenes, I think, is important. But the curse is, I didn't think about that. But that is a beautiful example.
But here's what's interesting, because and maybe the Tim Heidecker comparison is closer, because I think of Nathan Fielder and I think Fielder. I think of Nathan Fielder, or another one I kept thinking about was someone like Larry David. But in both cases,
it's those two and Woody Allen put together.
But in both cases of them, and Woody Allen maybe a little less so, but in both of those guys' cases, you watch them inwardly cringe because they're about to do something that's awful and they know it too. And so we're there with them like, you don't have to say it. Don't say it. The difference is that Albert Brooks doesn't have the cringe. He's so confident that he says the most horrendous shit possible.
Michael Scott shit.
Yeah. And the whole time he's like, I'm the most charming motherfucker in this room. And you're like, dude, you have to stop. Someone's going to punch you. And he's completely unaware of that.
And she comes on to him at
oh
one
my
point,
God.
and it gets really awkward.
And he's like, nope, shallow.
Off the frame. He's
shallow.
like, I'm locked into a PG. This movie's PG.
Because he wants them to go to the gynecologist.
She looks so familiar, the mom in this. And
what is it that she's from?
It took me, and check out the mom, like 80s movie catalog that she knocks out here. She's the mom in Back to the Future when he goes back to the future.
Oh my God.
She's the mom in Gremlins.
That's the one.
She's Kevin Bacon's mom in Footloose.
Oh
and
my
she's also the mom in Stand By Me.
Oh my God.
Some 80s hits right there.
It's Gremlins. That's the one I remembered her from.
Yep.
Okay. That's like, she's like 80s mom royalty.
Totally, right?
Wow. That's amazing. Okay.
Like the Melinda Dillon of the 80s.
Yeah. Or like somebody like, like Dee Wallace, right? Like E.T., Cujo. But like, I mean, that is definitely that person, that woman. This entire idea of, even as he starts to become paranoid that the drama isn't there anymore, which again, I think is such an interesting story. And if this was not a comedy and was a drama doing the same thing, it would still be such an interesting concept, which is, we thought real life was going to be the most dramatic. Because that's what he said at the very beginning. He's like, the best comedy you've ever seen is what happens in your own life. The best, drama. Yep. And he, I'm jumping around a little bit, but he tries to replicate the ending of Gone with the Wind eventually
so good.
While in a clown suit.
Yep,
now how we get there makes perfect sense. but when you just say that, it sounds completely insane. Yet each step eventually gets us to that place.
Let's show real life.
Oh, God.
These people have been depressed all along. You know, at a certain point, you see them fighting. You see the subtleties of living together, right? Especially if it's maybe a husband and wife. They have this perfect nuclear family, like on camera, right? But reality shows a different side of that. And you know, they keep putting Charles Grodin's trying to like talk to his wife about what's going on. Are we going to make this? Are we going to do this? And he keeps just like, don't film me. He's like, can't you film me saving cats and dogs?
Yeah, because he's a veterinarian. Yeah. And so when they finally do show up.
Perfect Grodin, though. Man, he's so funny.
They show up while he's got to do a surgery on a horse. And it's like, which also, I don't know if you noticed that they
it's
have.
Off frame.
Well, they bring the horse in. And in the wall in the operating room, they just have a picture of a horse. Like, there's no, it's not like a diagram or anything. It's just a drawing of a horse up on the wall. And I was like, is that so they can reference it? Like, what's the drawing of a horse for?
Yeah.
And then he accidentally kills the horse on camera, which is, again, is amazing. And then they sit and have a whole conversation about it. And again, like, Brooks
it's a trigger for everyone, right?
And Brooks's character is like, he's like, like what Grodin is saying makes perfect sense. He's like, I want you to show me in a good light.
The good stuff.
This could really harm my reputation. And everything he's saying, Brooks is like, no, I don't think it will. No. And you're like, you're not giving any reasons why you think that it would. He just is unwilling to listen, right? He's just like, I disagree. I think people are going to love this. And he's like, I killed a horse. And he's like, I think it's fine. He just is unwilling.
Eternal optimist.
Oh my God. It's so insufferable. It's truly an incredible character. And it's so different of a character than who he plays in Modern Romance. I'm really interested to see. And like, I feel like what you said earlier, this idea of like kind of growing up with somebody like Albert Brooks, so that by the time that, you know, I was older and something like Finding Nemo came out, I was like, oh yeah, it's Albert. He's playing the neurotic character.
Sure, yeah.
But Nemo's seeing him in these movies where he's really at the helm of all of it is so much more subversive than I think I ever realized he was. I agree.
He's way more heady than I was expecting. And I think he gets more and more out there too, which is awesome. And I'm excited to see more. You know, we're gonna have to lean into the self-deprecating, right? Like, it gets heavy, and like near the end when this isn't working, you know, the news starts following them about this show isn't working.
Well, he says he can copyright the family or copyright the household. So then they're trying to like get a hold of him when they're out. Like, why'd you? Did they tell you to watch this movie, or are they? Yeah, and it's so amazing. Like.
Yeah, but the family quits. They were promised like $25,000 if they did this, right? He begs them to continue. He's like, I'm a failure. You know, he just can't get over it.
And
he
even in those moments,
overanalyzes every part of the project.
And even in those moments, you're like, you're still full of shit. Because he's like, what am I going to do?
This is an abortion.
Yeah, and he's smiling, though, while it's an abortion. Well, when they go to the gynecologist and he's trying to pay him off with a wad of money. And he's like, let's get 1 vasectomy and 2 abortions for my whole team, like, while we're here. And you're like, what the fuck, dude?
Why did I pick reality? Yeah. Reality sucks.
Reality sucks. A cinematic abortion. I forgot about that line. Oh, my God.
Fake is better. People love fake. It's him going through his whole, like, process out loud, right? He can't keep anything in his head. He just says what comes to his mind.
When they're trying to quit, and he shows up to cheer up the kids, and so he shows up dressed as a clown.
Yep.
And then the kids aren't there, and he's like, but you know, me and my wife really want to talk to you. And he's like, I'll just change and come back. And they're like, no, we want to talk to you now. And he's like, okay. So he comes in and he has the little bunny puppet. Mm-hmm. And like, while they're basically talking about like we've fallen out of love with each other because of this project. Yep. Like
they're like depressed.
We might get a divorce. Like they're so dramatic. And he's talking to Charles Grodin with the rabbit puppet, and he keeps like, "Come on, bud," like on his knee with it. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like
Take a hint, dude.
It had somehow graduated into a level of absurdity I wasn't quite ready for, and it's
same
so
with this
fucking
same with
funny.
this ending too.
Oh my god!
You know, like he starts making Star Wars comparisons. He's going off on camera. It's like, what did they do? They blew up a planet. That's
what we got to do. We got to blow up a planet.
Yeah, they're like, what do we got to do? What's fake? What do people love? What is another big movie? Jaws. Jaws was a good one.
Yeah, the family fights a shark. Like it's
we can't. But he's just breaking down, and he even says, "I'm mentally ill."
Yeah.
And he burns down the house
because he's going to redo Gone with the Wind, right? He's like, it's going to be a big fire, and he runs in the clown suit again.
Yes, still
and
in
he's
the clown
like,
suit.
"I've figured it out, everybody."
He starts lighting everything
on fire. This will save the movie and your family. It's going to save your family.
It's a spectacular ending. It's real.
Oh my god!
And then it's such a wild, like the way where they decided to end it. I love it's just him going mad, and then we get more like backstory of what happened. And there's
the
like
text.
There's a toll-free number for historians, and I'm just like, wow.
It felt like the ending of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I could see that.
Right, where they just give up. And they're like, none of this shit matters.
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter.
How are we gonna end this?
Yeah, it'll just end.
I loved how it ended. I loved I was giggling the whole time. What a fun ride! What a great first one to start off with. I'm excited to do the rest of the festival.
100%. And again, like to immediately first movie that you make. You know, because he was doing shorts for Saturday Night Live,
and he was comedian on Johnny Carson.
Totally. But even those were like this almost. I mean, they weren't as impenetrable as Andy Kaufman, but they were way closer to that than anything else that was happening in the 70s, where it was it was a dissection of is like a meta dissection of the entire idea of what it means to be a stand-up comedian, right? Where he was doing. I remember he did a bit where he was like a ventriloquist dummy, but he was making his mouth move the whole time because he's just like really bad at it, and that was the bit, right?
Yeah.
Or there's one where he's supposed to be a veterinarian that has this elephant that does this amazing trick. Or not a veterinarian, an animal trainer that has this elephant that does an amazing trick. But he shows up and the elephant's sick, so he brings a turtle or is a frog, and so he just has the frog on the table with him, and he has to keep referring to like with the elephant, it's a lot more impressive, right? And you're just like, you've deconstructed
exactly
what entertainment even
and
means.
Comedy for sure. Like he's coming up with these jokes. And a lot of time watching this doc about him, a lot of the time is he's going off the cuff. Like he has his idea, but his reactions or everything are just kind of like do what's funny in the moment. Yeah,
I mean it's like what Gary Shandling. It's like what Gary Shandling did with Larry Sanders, right? Where you're just like, it's such a you've torn it down to threads, so that now what you're saying is funny. If somebody's like, "Why is this funny?" You're like, okay, I have to describe for 20 minutes all of the layer cake to get down to the base layer of what this is. Pretty brilliant stuff.
Yeah, pretty heady, brilliant stuff. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Please join us. Like and subscribe. YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok are our most popular channels, so follow us there. Next week, we're going to do that one scene from Training Day and get back into the Albert Books Fest. So please join us for the ride, and we'll see you then.
Bye, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.